I don't even know how to do intros actually. So this is I think this is my first guest that's not just a friend of mine that I know personally. So this is like a real honor that somebody would actually want to come on. That's not just like, oh, I'll just go on Brent's podcast. Sure, just poor guy. But we have a very special guest, Pat Barber. He is OG CrossFit from way back in the day. I've been following you since it was cool to just post like you laying on the ground after a CrossFit workout on Instagram. And now he's with a company called The Knowledge that they're launching your first kind of very extensive coaching platform in January, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're launching a more hands-on version of it. So we have an app right now that already exists that we launched at the games, and now we're launching more of like a coaching development back and forth that's coming out.
Yep. And you are the sole owner of an Instagram account called The Father's Guild, which I love,
Correct.
which kind of made me want to reach out to you because, yeah, parenting is important, I think, obviously.
Yeah.
So the stuff you do is really cool. So
Thanks, man.
Yeah. How is New Zealand, by the way?
New Zealand is wonderful. I am in New Zealand right now. My wife's family is from out here. So for Christmas, we're doing a summer Christmas because they have opposite seasons. So you come out here for Christmas and chill on the beach and have Santa and shorts, which is awesome.
That's cool.
So New Zealand's wonderful. However, it is New Zealand, and New Zealand has some interesting weather where it'll be like super sunny. Like yesterday was sunny, and today it's like and rain, and so it's got that back and forth, but it's still wonderful. Yeah,
that's cool.
It was hard getting out here. We had some mishaps, but we are here, and life is good.
You made it. There's no direct flight, I'm assuming. That's very long to.
There is actually. Wow. There's a direct flight from, so it's like a 13-hour flight from SFO. So SFO straight to Auckland is a direct. But it was $1,000 cheaper per ticket to go via Fiji. So we went Fiji and then Fiji to here, which is not that much longer, but it made instead of a 13-hour flight, it was a 17-hour travel day, which ended up getting a little squirrely, but not too bad. And
not bad.
Like $5,000 cheaper. Like I'm in.
Dude, that's crazy. When we travel with our family now, you have to be very intentional about, do I actually want to go to this place, and are we going to create something cool? Because as you know, it's wild.
It's so wild. I mean, I love traveling with kids, and my wife and I don't find it that difficult. We've done it a lot. We traveled around the world. We have 4 kids now, and we've done it with 3 kids and 2 kids and 1 kid. And I think as long as, for me, I don't go into it with the expectation of it being like, this is like traveling alone, then it ends up being quite straightforward, and there is chaos, but it's acceptable. It's just expensive. It's like you go to travel, and as soon as they're after 2, you're in the hole, like some serious cash.
Yeah. We have been talking about this. We have a newborn. She's 6 months, and we need to get our big international trip in before she turns 2. So we're not out another $2,000 ticket just for a 2-year-old. But that's interesting you say that about travel being easy. And my wife and I have been talking about this with people recently that, people say, oh, why are you taking them to Europe and all these crazy places? They won't remember. And I beg to differ, because I think it ingrains something inside their hearts and their brains that, oh, we adventure. We go see these things. Like they pick up on that. It may not be oh, yes, I remember when I was 8 years old, Mom and Dad took me to Scotland. Like it may not be that, but it is putting like almost a habit inside of them. And so that's interesting that you say that, because I think people kind of give that cop out of just, they're not going to remember, or it's hard, but they do remember, and it doesn't have to be hard.
I think there's actually, a truth on both sides of that. Like they won't consciously remember, but they do, like you said, have those like internal feelings of like, we adventure. That's what we do as a family. And there is the fact that it is objectively difficult, but that's what life's about, is like facing things that are objectively hard. And then the goodness of that on the other side, if you can relax a bit, ends up being quite worth it. And I think more than that, almost selfishly, the fun is that you'll remember, and you remember the experiences that they have. So watching my kids play in the ocean in Hawaii, Like they don't remember the act of playing in the ocean in Hawaii, but I remember the act of watching them play and get that joy. And like that to me is the fundamental nature of parenthood is like it's not about you anymore. It's about enjoying them, enjoying their growth and that experience. And you have to let go a little bit of self for that to be the case. So I think that travel gives a lot of that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And to be able to see your kids, we love going to places where there's probably going to be other kids for her to interact with of different cultures. And it's so
Hmm.
cool and so worth it. Like you said, selfishly to see her do that and get
Yeah.
to give her that. Have you found, because you have 4 kids now, right?
Hmm.
What is it like to navigate now their different kind of personalities and what they're into and picking a place to go travel wise that maybe everybody can enjoy and get something
Totally.
out of?
Totally. I think navigating the kids' different personalities, that's more in like the day to day, like how that plays out. Like I don't do much catering to their needs. Like I'm not the type of parent who's like, oh, I need to do this for this person and this for this person. The way that really plays out is more in if I need something to happen, I'm going to ask differently. So like I'm going to ask my oldest differently than I'm going to ask my second, then I'm going to ask my third, because that's how they're different. They find their like I don't think the role of a parent is to provide entertainment for the kid.
Correct.
The and I think that it to go into like a vacation being like, oh, we need to make sure Oaks is going to have a good time is like I think that's defeating on the front end because then like there's this expectation that oh he needs to have a good time and it's more about the larger experience. So we tend to just plan our vacations around places that it would be easy to just like let them roam, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, so like right now, we made some mistakes on the front end of being like, we're going to go to museums and we're going to do this and and it's like, that's not going to happen because they don't really care in the younger ages.
Yeah.
and like you're spending all this money to get in and then you're like, okay, well I can't even read the plaques because the kids want to go through. So like we
Yeah.
we did we did a big trip to Scotland, or it was a big round trip around the world, but we were in Scotland and it was awesome, but like they like the actual experiences of what you would travel to Scotland for like going to the castles and the museums like that wasn't nearly as enjoyable as just like driving through the countryside or finding a little town in a cafe and going and getting fish and chips and just so I think now when we look at it we go okay what place can we just let the kids roam and have like be on
Yes.
a beach for a long time or it's much more about the like the nature and the natural stuff versus the like we're going here for this. I mean, I think a counter to that would be something like Disneyland. Like, hey, I'm going to go to this destination for the kids because it's Disneyland,
Yeah.
But we don't do that often either.
Yeah. Disneyland scares me for what you just talked about of just like, you hype this thing up and you get out there and our daughter just likes to run around outside and she's like picking pine cones off the ground right now and like putting them in a
Yeah,
box that she found that's trash. It's like
yeah,
her entertainment is just the world around her. And so
yeah.
like giving her the like, no, you need to be on the teacups and we're going to stand in this line and it's going to be awesome. I swear. And she would have a good time, but that's a
Yeah.
tough sell.
Well, that's an interesting one too because like there's so much chaos in it now, like how many people are there, but the there is a lot of spectacle to that. I mean, it's designed to be stimulating, right? And I think a single experience of that doesn't deter from say finding pine cones and being in nature because they will find so much joy in that. So but like a single, hey, we're going to a carnival, we're going to eat some crappy food and it's going to be kind of fun. Like
Yeah.
is actually it's actually pretty enjoyable because they're so like eyes are just they're seeing the giant characters and they're like and you don't make anything big of it. Say, hey, you want to wait in this line? You want to wait in this line? And they're like, oh, we'll wait in this line. And I don't know. As long as you don't go in with too many expectations of like, we're going to ride all the rides and have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more just like walking around in the spectacle of it, which I ended up enjoying. There is a lot
That's
of
awesome.
chaos in it, though, like you said.
Yeah. The expectation, that's a good point of just, you have to change your expectations as a parent because they might not enjoy the thing that you think they're going to enjoy. And then that goes back to well, it's not up to us as parents to entertain our kids. We are
Yeah.
very independent play, give her, ample stuff to be imaginative with, but you don't need me to tell you what to do. You have markers and
Yeah.
all the world, but it's so easy to get caught up in society's give them more toys, get them this, all of that stuff, that just the simple let them be bored
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
answer a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard because as adults, we're not even bored these days. Like
Yeah.
we've got these like so that concept is as I think back in our childhoods, like you were bored out of a product of there wasn't something that could just be constantly with you and stimulate you, right? So
Yeah.
you found there was just times where mom had to work, dad had to work, and you were just like, okay, well, I guess I stare at this wall, like and when you're in the car, there's no like, okay, we're going to be on this device and constantly be stimulated. But I think today adults have a constant stimulation, right? Unless you're intentionally not stimulating yourself, because like these little guys keep us directly connected to the entire universe, and they're
Yeah.
designed to sell us stuff and keep our attention. So it's a hard concept to not live and then be like, unless you're really intentional with it, and then be like, hey kid, go be bored, like,
Yes.
and because we ourselves are not. So then it almost is like it's almost two-faced in the sense that there's this dissonance between what we're saying, hey, go be bored, but then we're never being bored ourselves. And so it's like,
Yes.
wait a second. Like the kid's going to be like, that's not real. But at the same time, it's definitely very doable. And I agree. Like with our kids, we don't give them devices unless it's like the weekend and they're going to play some video games, like Saturday morning cartoon style.
Yes.
And they're bored all the time. But they fill that space so quick. It's like, that's how the imagination grows, right?
Yes. And whenever our daughter, she doesn't do it as much anymore. She'll be like, I'm bored. And we just look at her and go, okay,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, they figure it out really quick, or they don't, but they
Super
always do.
quick.
Do you
Yeah.
find there's something nostalgic about, at least for me, our daughter just recently learned to ride a bike all on her own, fully doing it. And so we were down in the Texas Hill Country this weekend, and she was with her cousins just riding around on her bike, and they were going from campsite to campsite
Oh,
on
that's the
bikes. And
best.
it's like, man, what is that like touches us on the inside as parents when you see is your kid's just riding a bike, like no big deal, but it is that thing like, man, that is amazing, and I can't stop
Yeah.
looking at you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole, like, if you step back and pay attention and you're present, that's like every component of parenthood, right? Like that is the joy in parenthood is watching a being uh, that you created to some degree, uh, it, begin to experience life and have their own emotions and their own experiences that I think because on a fundamental level we relate with it, we've gone through those things. We're like, I remember that joy. So, so like you see
Yeah.
them have it for the first time, or I mean, like the experience you're talking about with the kids and the bike at the thing, at the, the campsite. It's like, that was some of my first times of my own personal autonomy. It's like I can go free, like,
Mhm.
oh, I've got the campsite. And so being able to give the kid that of like, yeah, it's okay. Go skate down to such and such campsite, make some friends. Like that's the human condition. Like that's a very core memory for most of us. And that's just watching them do it, I think is just, I don't know, if you can be present there, like that it's easier to be present there because you're usually outside your normal setting, but I think that
Yeah.
is truly what the day-to-day life is like if you pay close enough attention. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I think it's just watching your offspring create a core memory is probably
Yeah.
ingrained in us on a cellular level to be satisfying if we pay attention.
Yeah, and I just want to get out of the way. You know,
Yeah.
it's the need to be like a helicopter parent and say things
Yeah.
aren't safe and all of that. Like, I completely get where people are coming from. They don't want to get their kids hurt. I get it. Say, like, playing a certain type of way or whatever. Like, we let our daughter get on our roof. She likes the view
Yeah.
out there, like, and
Yeah.
it's just trusting your
Within, I
kids.
mean,
Yeah.
but it's within reason. And I think what's funny though is like, not funny, but I think for you, Brian, like it was probably the same thing of like, you slowly let her climb, then you let her climb the couch, then you let
Yes.
her climb off this, then you climb off that. But a parent who's always been like right there, like over, just coptering over,
Yes.
would see a kid on the roof and be like, my kid would never do that. And it's like, well, your
Oh
kid
yeah.
didn't have all the freedom ahead of time to where that actually makes sense,
Yes.
and that's where I'm at. In the same way as you, is like, I let them do that because they had all the small experiences leading up to that. Whereas when their friends come over, I'm like, I don't know, because
Yes.
I don't know what your experiences were, bro.
Yes. That's a
Like,
good
so,
point.
yeah.
We do the same
Uh,
thing. Do you find it, because it sounds like we have similar parenting styles, which is different than, we live in a suburban neighborhood, completely different. We
mhm.
homeschool, we let her do all those things, or all of her friends go to school. And it's hard. It's not hard, but when her friends are over, it's like, oh, we can't get on the roof because so and so's parents are definitely not gonna like that, and your friend's not gonna be
Yeah.
able to come over because I'm sitting in here reading a book while y'all are trouncing around up on the roof. Like, it's hard to kind of navigate, I think, other people's feelings, but also still letting your kid do whatever they want to do, kind of.
Totally. And I think there's bound. I think I find myself a little bit more, not on edge, but a little bit more, uh, not present. Just I pay attention closer when I have other friends' kids there, and then there'll be some things that I'm going to be like, yeah, no, you can't go do archery in the back right now, or do the knife throwing until I come, Whereas if it was
Yeah.
just my kids, I'd be like, yeah, you can go through the knives, or like you can go through the axes or whatever it is. Whereas, but that's just common sense in my mind.
Yeah.
It's you just explain it to them and then talk to them about it. But yeah, um, I do find a similar thing where you have to pay a little closer attention when there's the kids there and you're like, okay, Jimmy's here.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure we just hang around the pool a little closer right now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
because
you,
if you
but
fall
you,
in, I don't know if you can swim.
yes, but you want Jimmy to be able to swim and throw axes and knives, and it's
Totally,
like, but you're also
totally,
not Jimmy's parent, so I
totally.
also get it that kids. I get it, yeah. So
Yeah,
do you guys homeschool as well?
we do. Yeah, we homeschool. We do in California has pretty great homeschool programs, and we
Oh,
have
cool,
one called and they've got so we do one called Ocean Grove Charter, which actually gives you funding. So like they pay you to homeschool,
oh
and
wow,
I think it's like $2,500 per kid per semester or something like that. So
awesome,
then that funding can go towards curriculums, and you can choose your own curriculums. And they have like standardized tests they have to take via this, but the actual curriculum you use to get them there is up to you. And there's many different choices. And then there's also you can use that money for things like horse riding and jujitsu and like educational
oh
play and
man,
like so it's really well set up and really well designed in California for that. But yeah, that's what we do.
that's amazing. This is the
Yeah.
biggest question that I get, and I'll give it to you when people find out we homeschool. One, what curriculum do you follow? And two, how did you pick that curriculum?
Yeah, I think so. My wife does most of it. I do like I'll go take them to the shop and we'll build something, or we'll go mushroom hunting and do biology, and like
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
those are my things. That my wife has actually kind of piecemealed the curriculum. She'll take a reading one from here and then a math one from here, so it's not anything um, too specific. I couldn't even tell you exactly what they are. We have different kids, right? So the oldest is like really quick to read, like really quick to read, can do all that stuff fine. He tests out of his grade and everything, but has some hard time writing. So we choose a different writing curriculum for him. Whereas my second son, who's now turning 8 in January, he still struggles with reading a bit. And so we were pretty sure he's dyslexic. So we've got this like, okay, we're getting a more dyslexic curriculum for, how to communicate reading to him. And so she's found one for him with that. And I think that that's for us been pretty cool to be able to kind of piecemeal what we see fit here and then try it out and see how well it works. Like we've had times where we'll get a curriculum, we'll go to input it, and it's just like, this doesn't work. It's not working for our kids. And because of the freedom that we have with that, and the way the system currently works, it's worked well for us. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's my answer. And it kind of takes people back, I think, but it starts a conversation of, well, if you get to know your kid and you actually listen and see, hey, this isn't actually working, or like I taught my daughter multiplication from a Dollar Tree workbook and she got it for whatever reason, but you can piece stuff together. You don't have to follow one type of way. It's actually great to figure out what's best for them.
Totally. And that takes a little bit more work on the parent side. And I think part of the thing that kind of you might be alluding to, but I also feel is like, my wife and I both work from home and we both have the freedom of thought to like kind of examine these things. Whereas I don't feel that everybody has that luxury. They don't have the luxury of being able to go like, well, let's really examine the type of education that our kids are going to be getting right now.
Yes.
Like they're so focused on whatever's going on in their own lives by, because they have to be, that it's not possible for them to step outside that and be like, well, let me really focus on the kids' exact education. They just need to like click a button for a curriculum. And I think that is the reality for people. And I'm as empathetic as I can be towards that. It's just not where I'm at.
Yeah, totally. It's hard for me to talk too much about homeschooling and kind of even parenting stuff because I do have so much empathy for people that have to work 12 hours a day, 60 hours a week, and just to put a roof over their kids' head. So this is definitely, for me at least, coming from a place of privilege that I could stay home full time with my kids and do that. How long are you guys in New Zealand? Whole month?
We're out here for like a whole month. So we came out on the 5th and I think we leave on the 2nd. So
that's
whole
cool.
month. Yeah,
that's
it's gonna be great.
What is like your day to day with parenting? And you're a part of basically a couple of businesses. I look at Instagram as kind of a business at this point, and content creation and all of that. And then the knowledge with coaching, like how do you, I don't want to say balance that, but balance that.
Yeah, I mean, well, so my Instagram and the Father's Guild stuff that I do with that was more of a creative outlet. It's not a business, and I'm probably not going to be putting the kind of effort that would be required for the social media stuff. It's definitely more of like I sit and have these thoughts constantly, and I'm journaling constantly, and I'm really happy with who I am as a father. And so like. And I always want to be better, but I'm like, I enjoy fatherhood a lot and I want more people to enjoy fatherhood. So I have this like outlet. It's only recently actually become a popular channel, like relatively speaking. I mean, I had 300 followers when I made the post about not yelling and now it,
oh, really?
And it was, it had 300 followers and it was just my own thoughts. It was my a public facing journal, about fatherhood, and that single post gained it like 23,000 followers, 24,000 followers. So it's like, it's kind of wild that there's a bunch of people who want to have the conversation. So that still is just a side. That's just for me, my own personal, when I have time and headspace and I've journaled, I'm like, let's put some stuff out there because I want to help this community. But the how I balance it all is like my general day. My main job is with Best Hour of Their Day. The product we have is called The Knowledge. I wake up and get the kids ready for school. I get them food.
Ready.
I cook them and get them ready to do school in my living room. But we hang out in the morning. A lot of times in the mornings, we're very lucky. We get to go out and jump in like the hot tub and do a morning hot tub with the family, which is super fun because it's like the sun comes up and it's gorgeous. We got a big pool, so we go in and out of the pool in the hot tub, and all 4 of them are having fun, and the baby's in there with us, and my wife's in there, and And then after that, we usually come in and eat. And by 8 o'clock, I'm usually in my office, which is our garage, and I start working. And I'll usually have calls throughout the day where I'm either chatting with members or I'm on calls with the company, and we're on group calls, or I'm talking to coaches. And then we'll just handle a bunch of, filming and editing video for the company, or setting up different projects. But I'll usually work till about 2, sometimes 3, 4, 5, depending on how much I got going on in the day. Try to get a workout in somewhere in there too. When the wife is like, "Hey, you want to work out?" I say yes, as much
Yes.
as anytime she asks.
Yes.
and and then yeah, that's my general day. With balancing it all, it's just I prioritize. I have to get the work done with the knowledge and best hour. That's like my first thing. And then if I have free time and in that, then I'll also go off and do some other work. Um, like I'll work on a side project or something. And then in the afternoons, evenings, I'm trying to be with the kids, and also do projects around the house. We have a lot of projects, and that is
Yes.
my life. Um,
Yes.
is constantly building and working. And then on the weekends, I also still work for CrossFit. So I teach level ones and level twos. So I'll
Oh,
travel
wow.
on the weekends, and go teach those. And that's about one weekend a month, maybe two sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and then I try to, for me, I have to fill my cup. Like once a week, I usually try to get out and play volleyball, or go surfing, and that's what really kind of keeps me charged. And that's usually a sunrise session
Nice.
on a Wednesday. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's just same old, whatever comes
It,
up.
is that by yourself? Like you have to fill your cup, kind of alone time is what we call it.
Um, Mine's not specifically alone time. I'm very I'm a pretty strong extrovert, and I get a lot of energy from other people. So like when I'll go teach like a level one or level two seminar, like I don't come home from that drained. I come home from that pretty fired up, and
Nice.
ready to tackle my week, which is cool. Like I'm good at that job, and it fills me up a bit. But so surfing, I like to surf with other people, but it's hard to get someone to paddle out in freezing cold water at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So I tend to be out there alone, and that is quite peaceful. And then the volleyball, you have to play with four people. So
Yeah.
I usually have my little brother come out and do that with me. But I don't have a super strong desire for my own alone time. That I think happens naturally as a result of me doing a lot of projects around the house where I'm in my own head or I'm
Oh,
driving
yeah.
somewhere. So I do get alone time naturally, and that's probably why I don't seek it.
Yeah. Would you consider y'all's place in California like a homestead? I know you have some land, if not a
Yeah.
lot of land, but
Yeah, we got super lucky, man. I mean, I have 5 acres in the mountains of Santa Cruz, which is like stupid expensive to live there, and we just lucked into this property that I like found on Trulia, and we bought
yes.
another property and like rolled it in, and like with the equity worked perfect. It was just the right time, and it was a fixer upper, and it's got like, I've got a spring and a well and solar and 75 fruit
Oh,
trees, and I've got avocados, and I've got a big giant pool, and I've built all
whoa.
these outbuildings, and I'm renting stuff, and we've got an Airbnb glamping dome on it now. But it's like it's been we lucked out, and we're 20 minutes from the ocean, and we're 20 minutes from town, but we feel like we're in the middle of nowhere, and we're like there's
Wow.
400 acres of protected forest behind us on one side and a vineyard on the other and an apple orchard on the other, and it's like the kids just roam. So like,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
How long
I'm
have
lucky,
y'all had
man.
that? How
I
long have
bought
y'all had
that in
that
20
place?
I bought it in 2019. I was just cruising
Perfect.
Trulia, and it was perfect. I was cruising Trulia, and it popped up, and I was like, 5 acres in Santa Cruz for under a mil? No way. And I was like, and we had bought a house in 2012 that appreciated to like, bought it for like 600, and then it appreciated to like 900. And I was like, well, we've got some equity. If we sold our house, we might be able to, limp into this offer. And in 2019, it wasn't the same market at all. So we went up, checked it out, and I was like, this is incredible. Like mountaintop, it was so cool. It needed a ton of work, but I was like, I'm young and I can get after this.
Yeah.
So we put in like a low ball offer, contingent upon us selling our other house, and we hadn't even listed our other house because we weren't planning on selling. I was just cruising Craigslist because I like to do, or the Trello because I like, or not Trello, what's it called? Trulia because I like to do
Yeah.
that. Um, and we ended up, she accepted, and I was like, no way. And then so we had to get into escrow within 16 days on the other house. So we listed and got into escrow in 14 days, sold, and then moved right up. And it was just like boom,
Whoa.
boom, boom, like things fell. And then it's been just like lucky after luck, right? So we got in there, then the whole world shut down. So we had like a while to just sit and work on this property
Yeah.
nonstop. We like pulled out an acre of bamboo. We, built two tiny homes on the property. I erected a glamping dome. I, built fences on fences. Like we did a bunch of gardening, gutted the kitchen. We didn't have a kitchen for 6 months, right? When we moved in, we had like reinforce all the house, change all the rooms. Like it's been, and I do it all myself and I'm not like a builder and
Right.
it's just been fun. But then when COVID brought all the interest rates super low, we got to refi in like 2021 and we dropped our APR down to like 2.6 or
Yes.
2.7. It was for 30 years and it was
Yes.
like, and in that too, we pulled out 100K and our payment dropped $100. Like our payment
Yes.
dropped $100 after pulling out 100K and then they did a reevaluation on our house and it went from 960 to 1.6, 1.7. And with no modifications. Like it was like they didn't even take into account any of the stuff we'd
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, holy crap, we just got
That's
lucky.
yeah. You're like waiting for
Yeah,
the other shoe to drop whenever you get the 100K. Like, okay,
totally.
nobody's gonna notice this. Surely somebody's gonna notice this. No.
Surely something's wrong. But here's the deal: is like we even all this equity. It's like, what do we do? We can't move.
Oh, dude.
Like we
Yes.
we love our house, and I think we'll probably be there forever. So, um, we'll just always have it as like we love it. It's a homestead. It's our place. My boys can just roam the forest.
Oh man.
We've got this tiny home that I built up behind it. One of our friends moved into it,
Oh, cool.
and she's got two young girls who are my boys' ages, and they also homeschool. So like they're with the mom who's there half the week. So the boys just like play all day with
Oh
the girls for
man.
like 11 hours a day, and they do like mud kitchens and they do all kinds of like make believe and they're climbing trees and they're searching for mushrooms and it's like yeah, life's good.
Oh man. Okay, do you have any tips on, because we have 30 acres. We don't currently live on it, but that's the goal.
Hell
But
yeah.
it's kind of that balance of, man, we just moved into this neighborhood in like 2021, so our daughter could have friends on a
Hmm.
street. But this whole like tiny home, we want like a compound out there and like
Do it.
invite a friend with kids to like, here's some free land, just do something with it. Okay, so you said you Airbnb the dome. Any
Mhm.
tips, Airbnb tips, do's and don'ts that you've learned? Not just for me,
Uh,
but anybody listening.
I mean, this is our second Airbnb we've run, or third. We ran one at our old house out of a tough shed, and
Nice.
that thing. So in Santa Cruz is a pretty desirable place to be, and it was literally a tough shed that I converted to have like a bedroom and a bathroom in it, and that thing was renting for $110 a night, 30 days a week, 30 days a month, and it was like, I was
Damn.
it it was for like 3 years. It was crazy. I was sitting there being like, what the hell? Like we're making what on a tough shed? So, but then Santa Cruz put into to place very different zoning laws, and they kind of shut down a lot of these Airbnbs that were going. So right now we're out in Santa Cruz County, so we're like further out. So they changed the laws with that, so we're okay now. But some do's and don'ts. It depends on what you're trying to do. I think making it more of an experience if you're not in like a location where like okay, this is just close to everything, so it can be whatever. If you make it more of an experience, like we're out in the cuts now. So that's why I got a glamping dome instead of building a place, because it's unique. It's got this big PVC vinyl window in the front. It's got a little AC unit. It's like sitting above an apple orchard, and it's like an
Wow.
experience. For us right now, because we're not just looking to turn over people coming in, we're we're doing 2 night rentals as a minimum. So we don't do
Mm,
the one night, because that turnover is just, it's a pain in the butt, and it's a lot of cleaning. And for us right now in our lives, it's not really worth it. Um,
yeah.
but other than that, I mean, I'm a big fan of just checking other people's reviews on the people who are booking your place. I'm a big fan of
Uh,
looking at their photo and being like, I don't know about this person. Like, you get a lot of
yeah.
these young kids who just look like, you can tell, you see their photo and you're like, oh, you're going to be a pain in the ass, aren't you? Like you
Yeah.
look like Harry Potter, but is as a model. And not, I have nothing against Daniel Radcliffe,
Sure.
but like, it was just like, there's people who you look at and you're like, huh. And I'm not talking about ethnicity or anything like this. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about, in fact, all the people I'm referencing are white, but but it's
Imagine
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Imagine that.
but they're all. It's just like, you can kind of get a feel for it if you've got a sense of people, where you look at them and you're like, you're going to be high maintenance. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
say it in the listing of like, it's a long drive up here, and then you're going to comment, hey, the drive was really long, and you're going to be like, yeah, no shit, bro. Like, it's in the listing.
Yeah.
But I don't have any super specific tips other than, go with your gut. I think the 2 night minimum is a good one, and then making an experience as much as possible, where it's like you make this space look really nice and unique.
Okay. So we can. Hey, welcome back, dude.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
did it.
glad to be back, man. It only took us like 2 months, but we're here. We got it.
We're here. I did want to ask, how was y'all's rest of your holiday in New Zealand?
It was wonderful. I mean, I don't know if I expressed it on the last call while we were there, but it was we were staying with family, and family is always great, but also at times stressful because there's family dynamic. Something I was kind of realizing was like, family is they're not necessarily the people you would choose to always spend the time with, because they might have a different value structure than you. Uh, Whereas friends are generally the people who you've chosen to be with because they have a similar value structure. And not to say that family's bad people, it's just that like you live life differently, and then you're forced into confinement for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
so that always creates a little bit of an interesting dynamic more than anything else. But it was great. It was a wonderful month. It was also very exhausting.
Yeah. I found that you almost have to end up parenting your parents, and not really parenting them, but just enrolling them of like, hey, this is actually how we raise our kids. Like, we're here for a month. You kind of need to like get on board now. This isn't just like a weekend where it's just like, okay,
Yeah,
but you're
I'm
back.
I'm back. It was a great time. Kind of hit the ground running, so got back to home, and then it was like straight off to a bunch of different things. So I was like straight into. We went to Tahoe. We went skiing for a week. We came back. I like went to Nashville and did some work. Came back. Went off another weekend. So it's like been nonstop going since we landed. But it's been great. It's been a wonderful few months. Just tired.
That's cool. Yeah, for sure. Are you ramping up for because the CrossFit Open is starting soon, right? Is that still something that you like?
Yeah,
It's a busy
no,
season for you.
nah, no, it's not a busy season for me. Like, all we do in this period of time is help out gyms run this efficiently. So just like answer questions around, oh, what do I do for Friday Night Lights? And it's a pretty straightforward thing of like, treat it as a single day event, make it fun, have a barbecue, and so there's not a ton of involvement or heavy lift on our side. I mean, it's always fun to like watch the video of the release and then go try the workout and get absolutely annihilated, but other than that, there's no heavier workload for us.
Yeah. What is the I guess evolution of CrossFit looked like for you because you've been around since literally the beginning. I think both as a coach, a staff member, and an athlete. Like, where is CrossFit now? especially the past, I think, 2 years, probably with the new ownership. Like, where is it now, maybe compared to 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting because CrossFit now has its biggest, like, it's more well known now than it's ever been, and it's more a household name than it's ever been. And so like there's a pretty deep common understanding in a global space of what CrossFit is right now. Whereas back when I started, nobody had any idea. So anyone who's doing it was early adopters, which meant they came with a certain fervor that others don't. So you kind of needed to prove yourself every seminar you taught because you were dealing with people who had misconceptions about what we did. And for a long time there, it wasn't quite the case. And nowadays, you don't quite have the same misconceptions about CrossFit, but you do have misunderstandings of the implementation. And I think the biggest difference that I see is there's people who claim the name CrossFit, who claim themselves to be CrossFitters, who run CrossFit gyms, but then don't really implement the program in a way that makes sense. Because as we all know, CrossFit's not a franchise; it's a licensee model. So now what I see that the biggest difference is that there's a lot of people who've like never done a single workout a day, one focus, do your thing, hit it hard, go home, uh, style of training. And they think that CrossFit is like fit as much as you can in an hour and just smash your face. And it's totally random. And so like,
Yeah.
so there's like people back in the earlier times, it was more the misconceptions were around what it was because people didn't know about it. Now misconceptions are from within the community, from people who've done it a lot at a CrossFit affiliate that didn't quite understand programming, and just do way too much in an hour, or they're following competitor stuff and they're just normal people, and you're like, what are you doing? Like that's following like Lance Armstrong's training methodology when you're just a weekend cyclist. Like that seems really
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah. No, that is, it's true. Not, I've been, I guess, out of the CrossFit gym now for 5 or 6 years. And even back then, trying to program for people, because it is hard whenever the consumer now sees all of this stuff on social media and the best of the best training. They're like, oh, well, I need to snatch and do a Metcon in the same day every day because that's what they're doing. So
Yeah.
then it's like, man, it must be hard as a gym owner now because now it's definitely everywhere. And if people go to a CrossFit gym and they're young and they want to get after it, they want to get after it. But
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to convince them that you know best.
Well, young kids, yes, but fortunately, I would say they're not the largest demographic of people that walk into these gyms and need help. You're
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
more, it's like the 30 to 50-year-olds that are the main demographic of people who are going to be able to afford it. They're also going to be the ones who need it the most because they've been sedentary or they're looking to fill this space and get a really effective training program. So you don't actually have to change as many minds as you think. There are some that you do, some young kids that you kind of just have to be like, yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from, but that's what we do here is this. And I personally don't find that difficult at all because I'm so confident in my understanding of the methodology. But what I do find when I work with gym owners is that a lot of them don't have that confidence, or they don't necessarily know why what they're doing is too much. And so when someone, questions it, they question it. And that's that belief in the foundation, I think, is what makes it easy to change someone's mind or show them the light or whatever it is. But luckily though, most people still come in with still just like a weird, like a cursory understanding of the actual methodology. So whatever you give them, they're likely going to believe is CrossFit. I think where I'm seeing the biggest difference is that the gym owners are just like they've given the wrong thing. So they've given the wrong thing too much, and so now their whole gym is accustomed to something that is not quite the methodology, and then they wonder why they don't succeed in the long run. And it's like, well, you filled so much stuff in your class that you haven't coached at all. Like you can't coach when you're just pushing someone from one thing to the next, because in this business you shouldn't be selling the program's free online. You should be selling the experience, and that experience comes hand in hand with taking care of people's bodies, and that requires an interaction that is, hey, you're currently doing this, I would like you to do this. Oh, try this. Oh, good job. Like that back and forth can't happen in a class that's full of so much stuff that people just need to move from thing to thing. So that's more of the thing that I see is hard to combat, is the gym owner having a misunderstanding of the implementation, and then that like that the individuals who walk into the gym get that kind of pushed into their system as like, this is what it is, and then you're like, damn it, that's
Yeah.
my
Is that the biggest challenge as a CrossFit coach or a CrossFit affiliate owner now that you see?
I think the biggest challenge for them would be, understanding exactly what to deliver, and then having good examples of what it's like to deliver well. There hasn't been many forward-facing high-level coach examples. There's been a lot of competitive coach examples, and there's been a lot of competitor examples, like when you see social media and when you see the YouTube channels that people put out. But I think until, we really started digging into, we being best hour of their day, started releasing content of like, this is what it looks like to coach a great class, like start to finish. These are some like snippets of how to teach these pieces. Here's some cues for this. Like, until we really dug into that, there wasn't really good examples of the initial or like the initial model, the like group class done well, like not selling tons of personal training, just like the business that CrossFit originally kind of was, which is actually, ironically enough, a very straightforward business to run, and the math works out pretty well with very few numbers. It gets squirrely though if you have things in not the proper places, I would say.
Like what type of things?
So when you're thinking about the business, what we go through is there's kind of like a 50-50 model of you've got your operations, you've got your sales, and you've got your marketing. And then on the other side of it is the service. And so these three, usually it's like kind of a 25% across the board. When you look at a business, you've got the product or the service, you've got the sales, you got the marketing, and then you got the operations. And they're all like split 25%. But I think in the CrossFit model, and we think in the CrossFit model, that it's more 50% on the service, which is that the actual offering, and that class experience and what it means to do CrossFit well. And then all these others, it's split into kind of a third of that other 50%, the sales, the marketing, the operations. Both sides are equally important, but usually gyms will be struggling on one side or the other. They'll have these like great service, great sales, great marketing, great operations, but they'll lack the service component. They just don't deliver a good product. And then they wonder why they don't succeed. They're like, if I get all these things in line, then I'll be good. Or they've got like a great class experience because they were really passionate about it and they invested in this side, but then they lack some basic components of like, where are my leads coming from? What's my churn rate? How am I sending out emails? How am I maintaining contact? Like they just don't have these sides. So it depends on what the gym's coming from or what the background of the person is. And so I'd say those two sides, one of those sides failing is the more funky stuff that happens.
Yeah, it's got to be. You have to evolve. This isn't everything, but I feel like definitely as a gym owner, any type of gym owner, but CrossFit specifically, 10 years ago, people were just flowing through the doors. You didn't almost have to do anything. You had to do some of that stuff, but at least from not where I was at, it was just like, dude, we're at capacity and we don't do any marketing.
Totally.
But now it's like you said, you have to have all of those things in line because you want to keep people and you want to educate them and give them a good experience, but you also still need to figure out how to bring people in.
Yeah. Well, but ironically enough, though, like yes and no. So the marketing is actually less important than the system behind the marketing. So when we look at all the numbers, when we see, because we work with hundreds and hundreds of gyms, there's the organic traffic to CrossFit websites in areas locally is enough to have enough visibility, as long like of just getting people through the doors, to have a pretty steady growth rate. The more things
Amazing.
it's wild. Like, so like you don't have to do any like paid marketing or things like that in reality in most places. Where you have to, like, what a lot of people do, and when you look at most businesses, is they're like, okay, I've got a bucket and I'm trying to fill this bucket. And so if I put more water in the bucket, I'll be good, right? That's how I fill the bucket. But when you look at a CrossFit gym, you kind of want to look at, are there a bunch of holes in my bucket? You know, like, are there like, because if I put more water in a bucket with holes, it's not going to keep filling the bucket. I'm just going to have to keep dumping more water on it. So the holes come in things like, what's your churn rate look like? So how many members are you getting per month? How many are you keeping per month? You know, where, like, how are you keeping those members? Like, what is the loss to gain ratio? And then why are they going? And then what is my follow up there? And then there's also the, like, it doesn't matter how many leads you get if you can't close any leads. And closing leads in CrossFit should be freaking like a no-brainer. Like, it should be like the easiest thing in the world, right? Because you got into this business for some reason. Like, ideally it was because CrossFit changed your life in some way. So being able to express that in a way that someone can hear it and connect with, like, that shouldn't be that hard, as long as you have the confidence to talk to them and be like, this is why I was here, and this is what it was for me, and I can see this in you, and blah blah blah. Like, that sale, it doesn't need to feel inauthentic. It doesn't need to feel forced. It's literally, this program sells itself. And so, as long, like, I think what a lot of people will do is they'll look at these three things. They'll look at sales, marketing, and operations, and they'll, like, really look at marketing, and they'll be like, okay, we need to pour gasoline on this fire, or we need to pour more water in this bucket. And you're like, your fucking bucket has holes, like huge holes.
Yeah.
You can dump as much water on, but it's going to filter out. So what we do a lot of is, when we go into businesses, is look at where their holes are. That's a funny way of saying that, but, and then,
Pause.
yeah, pause. And then try to figure out ways for them to patch these holes. Because there's a number of places that it can be a little squirrely. And then, all things considered, once all those holes are patched, organic traffic to sites is pretty much is pretty much enough to have, like, a steady growth rate of, like, a net of 3 to 5 per month. And if you look at that across a year, you're making good money on that, as long as you're keeping
Yeah.
and so, yes, you can add, like, money and do more marketing and do all that kind of stuff, but it should not be the first thing you do. The first thing you should do should be fixing the holes in your bucket and making sure that the class experience is something that is worth promoting. And so, like, that's where we attack first. And I think that's one of the things that, being in the business as long as we have, kind of gives us the edge on, because a lot of people come at it from a business perspective, and they're like, in most businesses, the service is only 25% of the offering. But in this business, like, that's a much bigger proportion of it. And you really need to dial that in while you're simultaneously looking at your business practice on the other side.
That's cool to see the evolution of, I'm sure you can speak on this, but when you probably first started doing CrossFit and coaching CrossFit, y'all probably weren't thinking about the marketing and the systems in place to retain members and stuff like that. There was that, but not to this degree that you're talking about.
No.
So to be able to still keep the methodology the same, but now you're able to keep the methodology the same because of all these systems in place and a great class experience over here. That's cool, because it holds on to the essence of CrossFit.
Totally.
If you're able to have that full, hey, we're going to have still a kick-ass class, our programming is on point, but now also over here, we have all these systems in place, so we're not worrying about people leaving and
Totally.
all new people coming in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. It's super rewarding what I've been doing recently, because I work with Best Hour, and they brought me in to mainly do the coaching side, and I got to see all the business side, because I'm really good at the delivery of this. Like, that's my, like, I'm not going to walk lightly around it. Like, I'm really good at delivering this program in a way that anyone can hear it. And so I've never understood how gyms didn't succeed, because every gym I've ever been a part of is like even if we had terrible business practice, like I could make the experience so good that maybe things were a little funky in this side, but we had crazy retention, crazy number of referrals and recommendations, just because like if you make that front side good enough, which is like it's to a level that many can't, then it doesn't matter as much on this other side. But if you dial in this other side, it's just this double whammy that's awesome. And so what I've learned from this company is like this other side is relatively simple, but it's like if you just get some basics in line here, then there's some really huge advantages that you have within the space, and you can kind of like steadily grow both sides. So yeah, it's been really cool to work with people who've solidified these basic business practices, but also do it through the vein of like this just pure CrossFit. Like most of these companies that do gym consulting come from like a gym consulting background where they're like, you got to sell PT, you got to sell these things, you got to get nutrition supplements in there and your t-shirt game on point. And it's like, sure, you can add all that stuff if you want down the road once these two sides of the business are like humming. And then that stuff is just bonus on top of it. You don't need to sell like 10-month memberships, and like you don't need to sell nutrition, you don't need to sell t-shirts, you don't need to sell one-on-one training. Like all of those things don't need to exist in your space in order for you to be profitable and have a huge impact on people and have a great life. But you can, as long as you solidify everything else, and then those are just like little additions onto it. Whereas most of the coaching is the other way around. It's like you need to have all these extra offerings so that you can make money. It's like that's a misunderstanding of the model.
That's cool. So there's still people, I guess, gym owners making a living off of just strictly CrossFit gyms.
Bro, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like so many. And all we hear is the negative shit. All we hear is the like, can't make it, or you blah, blah, blah. We work with hundreds who are. Hundreds. And it's so reinvigorating for me to like sit and be on this team. And we do we have a Slack channel with all these monthly wins and stuff like that and weekly wins. And every time those are rolling through, you're just like, hell yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy work. Like it's like these gym owners are like putting their head down and going to the grindstone, but like there's nothing better than watching them succeed, and they do over and over again. Like we've got multiple gyms that are, $1 million gyms. Like they're bringing in close to 100K a month, just it's off of just group classes. Like it's pretty awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool because, we only see the negative, especially whatever 2 or 3 years ago, like the mass exodus, like, oh, I'm dropping my CrossFit affiliate, like all of that stuff. But, water kind of finds its level, it sounds like, and people are still out there doing it.
Dude, still out there doing it and crushing it and just changing lives and really just making this implement, because like the program is amazing. Like when done well, the program's like there's a reason we do it versus other stuff. It's just a matter of implementation can get squirrely if people are have misunderstandings of it, or they run their business in a way that doesn't allow for a lot of good things to happen in the same place.
Yeah. What was your personal transition like from a competitive CrossFit standpoint to now like, oh, I'm a dad, maybe I can't put all of this time and energy into that? Was it like a little bit rough, that transition, or were you ready to not have to do all that?
I was super done competing. I just like, more than that, I was super done training at that level. I was super done investing that much of my life in just like training. Because when you're training at that level, you're training for so many hours a day. You're kind of constantly in some sort of pain, just because like that volume is not appropriate for humans for long periods of time. But that was the competitive nature of it, and that's it's a specific sport. That's what you're trying to do is just add so much. So I was quite ready to be done, and I felt quite accomplished. Like I knew I was never Rich Froning or Matt Frazier. Like I knew I was never going to win the games, but I could hang with the best of the best, and I loved it, and I did very good. Like as an individual, as a team, like I was stoked. Like, so I put my stamp on competition, and when I walked away, I was, you know, I was a little jaded to training in general. So I think I probably took more time off than I would have if I could going back. I would have probably continued training a little bit more often, but I would literally take like, you know, I wouldn't do a workout for like 6 months. You know,
Man.
I would be active, I would be active, but like I found my highest training volume was right around the open because I did one workout a week.
Yeah.
But like it was just I had done so many years of training that I just wanted to go play. Like I wanted to go play volleyball, and I wanted to go surfing, and I wanted to do all the things that my time I couldn't have done while I was competing. Um, but then that makes it so as I step back into the space and I'm training, like I train like 5 days a week now and have been for a while, it's not as easy as a transition as it would have been because I took like 4 years off, 5 years off.
Yeah.
What's funny is like so much stays, so much physicality stays. Like when you're at such a, like, I'm not trying to be arrogant. When you're at such a high level, like
Yeah.
I still walk into gyms and am probably the fittest guy in the room, even though I've taken so much time off. But I'm nowhere near what I was. It's just when you were at a peak, you fall to a different place. And like, that's kind of the point of what we were doing with CrossFit is like, you want to train and get as good as you can, as early as you can. So that way, as life happens, you can take time off and still be able to live the life that you want to live.
Yeah. The gym rat in me still, shudders to think to take a week off to let my body like rest and have 45 minutes back in my day. But, you
I was
always go
never a
back.
gym rat, man. I was never a gym rat.
Really?
Never. Never. I hated the gym. I always hated the gym. The only reason I ever stuck with CrossFit is because I thought I treated it as a game. I treated it as like a
Ah,
competition. But the whole gym scene, like I hate it more than anything. It's nothing about it draws me. Nothing about the social side of it. Nothing about like, or I guess the antisocial side in most gyms is fucking put your headphones
yeah.
in and get after it. Nah,
Yeah.
nah, dude.
What'd you do? What'd you do growing up? Were you surfing and doing California stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. I did every sport. So I played, soccer and baseball and surf, skate, snowboard. I did. I didn't do football. My mom didn't let me. I played a bunch of volleyball.
Smart.
Um, swam, dove, like did everything I could.
Dude, that's so fun. And I feel like though I don't want to sound old, but those were the days whenever parents weren't like, "Oh, we got to get you a personal trainer and you got to do, your strength and conditioning." It's like, "Mom, I'm 12. I just want
Yeah,
to go play volleyball with my friends." Like
yeah,
that's like we didn't have that at least growing up, and it was just like, how good can I get skill wise? Like
yeah.
it wasn't even a thought. Like,
No,
yeah, we'll do some curls for the girls, but that's about it.
I always saw
What
every
ma-
time I went to the gym to try to train, I was always like, I hate this so much. Like I would sit and like I didn't, I'd read my men's health magazines and I'd like try to do the ab routines and I was just like,
yeah.
this is so lame. And then when I found CrossFit, I was like, this is so fun because it's like me versus you and it's a game and like I can just go kind of hard and yeah, that was a game changer for me.
What I'm sure you've talked about this at length, but what was the how did you get to your first like CrossFit class?
So it was Tony Budding, the first media director of CrossFit. He was my English teacher in high school.
No
And,
way.
yeah, and Nicole Carroll was my pottery teacher in middle school. So Nicole Carroll, the director of training now. So Tony and
Amazing.
Nicole were dating, and they taught at this school. And Tony went to find what a clean and jerk was, so he could teach it to the volleyball team, which I was on. So he typed in clean and jerk Santa Cruz, popped up as CrossFit Santa Cruz, which was Greg Glassman's gym. So he went down to CrossFit Santa Cruz and he was like, "Hey," which was like the only one at the time. Like there was one gym, it was CrossFit Santa Cruz.
Wow.
And he was like, "I want to learn how to clean and jerk." Greg's like, "We do CrossFit." He's like, "But I just want to learn how to clean and jerk." So he's like, fine, I'll teach you how to clean and jerk, but this is the other stuff that we do. And so Tony watched what they were doing. He's like, this is really cool. And he brought that training back up to the school and trained the volleyball team. And so that was
cool.
Yeah, and that was 2003, 2004. So I think the first workout he made us do, or he asked us to do, was the Inman Mile. Like, do you know the Inman Mile?
I think I have an idea, but what is it?
You
It
throw
sounds horrible already.
body weight on a barbell and you walk a mile. Like that was
Yes.
that was and I think there's a penalty if you drop the bar. Like every time you drop it, you have to do like 10 back squats or something like that. But it was like, I mean, I weighed like $140 and I've never trained, and we throw this. I was like, that sounds fine. So I like throw the bar on my shoulder, I start walking. I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm so done. Like, you know,
It hurts your shoulders.
Oh yeah, man. Like carrying
man.
like that. Oh, it's so bad. I didn't know how to clean and jerk, so putting it back on my shoulder. I'm like, how am I supposed to get this back up there? Like what are you?
Oh no.
What's this? So like I'm, on the ground, like doing the thing. Yeah. I don't think I even made it. Like I think I made it like 600 meters or something, and I was like, I'm done. I can't do anymore. So that was my first introduction, and then we proceeded to do Cindy and a bunch of other dumbbell workouts and some light lifting and stuff, and then I would slowly from there and went into like doing proper CrossFit. So it was great.
Wow. Did you go to college after high school?
I did. So I went down to Cal State Northridge in LA or San Fernando Valley, and I went for showed up there, tried to walk onto the volleyball team, and they have a D1 team where I was like the shortest guy by a foot, which was different.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a big boys. But I spent like the first semester there, and I just hated it. Like I hated the San Fernando Valley, and I was like, you know what, I'm out. So I came back up to Santa Cruz, where I'm from, and just started studying at the local community college called Cabrillo. And then from there started going back to CrossFit, where Tony was teaching now, and
nice.
then got in full time. Essentially, they needed a video editor and video holder, and I started carrying a camera for them. So that was the jam.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you just kind of like showed up and just like, how can I help? And that was it.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, it was more like I quit this room service job that I had, drove by the gym. Tony was doing a workout, and he's like, join me. And I was like, sure. So I joined him. It was a horrible workout. It was Carabelle. It was Karen Isabel combo. So it was like, you do.
Oh, no.
You do, I think it was 20 or 30 wall ball, and then you do 5 snatches, and you just go back and forth until they're both done. I think whatever the math works out on that for the 100 wall ball. And the snatches, he had me doing them at 135, and again, I weighed like $150 at that time, and I don't think I think my 1 rep max snatch was like 175, and I'm trying to snatch 135 for 30 reps. And I was like, I got pummeled, like just put in my place. And Tony afterwards was like, hey, what are you doing these days? And I was like, I just quit my job at doing room service. And he's like, do you know how to edit video? And I was like, no, but I can learn. And so he sat me down in front of a computer and showed me how to edit the old blade tool on Final Cut 7.
Wow.
Yeah, the demo version. We didn't have a full version, couldn't afford it yet. And I edited this old video of Annie Sakamoto doing a clean, and there was 2 separate clips, one of her from the front, one of her from the side. And he wanted me to sync those 2 clips up, and I had no skills, and that's what I did. And it ended up working out, and it was it took me like 10 hours, I think, to get that video done. It was like a 30-second clip. But then from there, I knew some basic editing, and I would fly around the country and film and edit video for the company, and it was great.
Wow. When did you leave CrossFit HQ?
I still work for him.
Oh, that's right. You still do.
I still teach level 1s and level 2s. I think
Man.
I stopped working for the media department in 2009. Okay. The entire CrossFit media was me and Tony up until about 2008, 2009.
Wow.
Like all of media was just Tony and I. And so we'd fly everywhere, and I would have all the footage, and I'd go through all the footage, and I'd try to edit video and like make posts on the site and do all this stuff. But then in 2009, I sat down with Tony and I was like, "Hey, I don't want to be you." Like that was my conversation. Because like I saw my only direction within media was to become the next Tony. And like the guy woke up at 4 a.m. You know, he worked from 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. and like had one little break in the middle of the day, and that every day. And he loved it. And that he's a workaholic. That's his jam. But like I was not that and didn't want that. And I did not want to be in media. I liked coaching and I liked doing the teaching and all that stuff. So I just kind of sat down and was like, I see my trajectory as being just to you, and I don't want to be you. And he's like, fair enough. So I stopped working for media, and we brought in Rory McKernan. And Rory McKernan came down, and I walked him through what I did, and he took the job and he moved to Santa Cruz. And so Rory McKernan became me, and then took that role and ran with it and turned it into like, you know, presenting at the games and doing all this media and like kind of head of all that stuff. So he did a fantastic job, and he definitely turned that role into something special. So props to him for doing that.
So the old footage of like the original games out at the ranch, like that was you?
Well, no. So the footage at the games or at the ranch. So in 2008, 2007, I wasn't there. I did some media at the time, but I didn't go to that games because I was like, what is this thing? No, I'm not going to go. So I didn't go.
Yeah.
And then 2008, I competed. So I
Oh, nice.
not filming. They said that I could compete. And that was the year that they filmed Every Second Counts. So Savan came in as a third-party contractor, Savan and Carrie, and they had made a movie about arm wrestling called Pulling John, and they wanted to do a documentary on CrossFit, which they called Every Second Counts. So they filmed that.
Oh, cool.
2008, and then 2009 came around, and Savan and Carrie did another series of filming, and I was competing again. So because the game stuff was all competition, so from 2008 to 2015, I competed all those years. So I never did media at the games, at least.
Wow. Is it crazy to think that it's been almost 10 years since you were last like competing? Like, do you still have very fond memories?
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
2014.
Yeah, I mean the competition was fun. Like I loved competing. I hated training. I loved competing, but like
Yeah.
stepping on the floor and going toe to toe with someone, like that is such a pure expression of physicality in my mind, and it's so easy in one regard, like relative to like a volleyball competition. Like I play volleyball. In volleyball, the other person can like trick you. They can beat you. They can like out chess maneuver you. In CrossFit, it's like you either have it or you don't. You know, like if you're in your own head, then you're weird. Like you need to pull your head out of your ass. Like you go in there and you enjoy it and you just give it what you have. And then occasionally there's little times where you can be like, okay, I've got a little more. Let me tweak the guy next to me. And like that game was super fun for me. The whole training leading up to it was not my favorite though.
Yeah. Do you still keep up with the sport aspect of it?
To some degree. I'm not like super on top of it, but to some degree.
Who's the top guy and top gal nowadays?
So there's a bit of a changing of the guard right now. You've got Justin Medeiros was top guy, and then this last year you had Roman and Adler go head to head. Roman kind of busted his ankle jumping over something, and they're awesome. Like Adler he's such a fantastic athlete. And what's crazy about it is Adler. So Jeff Adler is a Canadian dude. He's not a natural athlete. So he's literally just put his head down and done the work. And he's got this fantastic coach in his wife, Caroline Lambre. And she like just she's awesome. Like her mind is really good, and he just says yes and does whatever she asks. And then he goes and he just executes. Like there's no games about it. Like he just executes, and he moves super well, and he trains super well, and he recovers super well. Like when she started training him, he was like, I want to take this seriously. Will you start training me? And she's like, yeah, I will. And the very first thing she did is like, she's like, if you want to take this seriously, you're going to take a nap every day from 11 to 12. Like, so we're going to train in the morning and you have to take a nap because when you sleep, you recover. So that was the first thing she built into his programming was like, you're sleeping from 11 to 12 if you want to take this seriously. And he's like, yep, okay. So like literally the guy takes a midday nap every day to like to recover. And like they're just legit. They're on point. They work hard. They program well. Adler's fantastic.
Dude, you just made me a huge fan of this Adler guy. That's
Right?
so cool.
Yeah, no, he's legit, and I he also talks shit like in a way that like,
Yes.
but it's not like boastful and mean. He like literally will get in there and be like, I'm just gonna outlift him, you know, and it's like it's his
Yeah.
confidence in himself, and he's kind of like quippy and fast, like he's great. Then Roman's pretty legit. Like I puts his head down and does work, same sort of deal, like just an absolute unit. I don't know much of his background. He doesn't speak the greatest English, but he is came out and just performs, and he's a big boy. And then Medeiros is awesome too. Like Medeiros had a bit of a head game go down this last year, and his physicality was playing up. But he's also just a young kid who's just like super passionate and good about the sport. So I love him. Good dude. Women's side of things, I don't follow as closely. I know Laura Horvath is the girl who won this last year, and she's rad. Like she came out and is just like kind of like Roman, like a bigger athlete who just has a background in gymnastics, so she can move her body weight really well, but is also super strong and kind of unapologetic with her skills. Like she's like, yeah, I'm gonna kick some freaking ass. Like, and she came out
Yes.
and kicked some freaking ass, and I was like, yes, I love it. But that was this last year. I think Tia was pretty much out of the games because she had a baby very recently. And so this year will be a little interesting because I think Tia's back in.
Oh, let's go.
So I think it'll be a fun little battle. The interesting thing I think on the women's side is there's been a lot of very young athletes who are super, super promising. And they were just absolute units, but they got a hold of social media and kind of fried their brains. And I'm sure they're fine as people, but like, I don't think it's healthy. And I'm speaking as a white privileged man. I get this, but like the level of attention that they would get is crazy at such young ages. You know, we're talking 17, 18, 19, 20, like very formative psychological years where people are going to say a lot of really negative stuff around you on these social platforms. And there's a constant validation of both sides of your personality. Validation in the sense that you've got 500,000 followers and all of these yeses and all of these like propositions and you're awesome, but simultaneously a bunch of people telling you you're shit and you're a man and you're ugly and you take steroids and the blah, like, so like to have a young forming mind that's already going through its own stuff and then to lump on 500,000 followers who are constantly praising or detracting from you, I don't think that's a recipe for psychological success, and that's been the case for a few.
Yeah, and how are you even supposed to handle that? There's no like
there's no
I couldn't imagine being 17
no
and having all of that praise and like you said, both sides. The worst part of yourself that's inside of you and the best part where it's just like, I am awesome. Oh, you look like all that stuff, dude. Like that's tough.
Dude, I don't think our brains were made to cope with that level of attention. But
no,
especially at those ages.
And by the way, layer on that, like, oh, I'm also making money off of this. So now if I want to pay my rent, I kind of have to do this. I do have to do the whole social media thing. And it's like, oh, fuck, what have I done?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So then their entire identity gets wrapped up in it. So you've seen a couple like very promising young female athletes who like were dominant, like top 3, just pull out, and I'm not competing this year. Just like I need to take some time away and just go out and like travel the world and stuff, which is great. I hope it helps them. But
Awesome.
if I was their coach, I would say, hey, we're just going to be here, me and you, and you need to get off social full time. Let's find you like whatever you want, but this is not helping you. Like, I don't, it's just, I'm not saying I would control them. I don't think that that's a positive thing.
Yeah. I think probably everybody needs to hear that, athlete or not. Like, my wife got our family, it's called an Aero box, and it's just a pretty looking box that you can charge your phone in, but it, tracks who's doing it and when's. It has been amazing. I had that idea
5 years ago, by the way, 6 years ago. I had that.
Really?
Idea. Yeah. I called it the phone. I called it the phone box, and it was like a little phone prison that you plug stuff into, and you could lock it, and then you could also have it display like a text if you wanted to, like, so.
Yes.
So it'd be a little bit smarter. So you plug them all in, and it's like if there's a call or if there's a text, you can see it. But other than that, it's like locked. And I called it the phone box, and I was, and then when the Aero box came out, I was like, look at that, someone made it.
Look at them, yeah. But it's so smart. It's like, oh, I don't actually need anything that's on my phone. Right. I need it for setting up cool connections like this, and then you and I are actually hanging out. But outside of that, you really don't need it for that much.
But it's a distraction, and it's something where, like, if you don't want to feel, like if you don't want to actually sit and think or feel, you can stimulate that part of your brain pretty easily and distract yourself. And so people will just log on and scroll. I mean, even myself, who knows that, like I find myself getting sucked into it, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I doing? What am I doing?
I know. If I'm not feeling my best that day, it's almost like a comfort thing at this point. Like, I get to lay on the couch and just scroll my phone because, I'm too tired and my brain can't actually read a book or have a conversation. It sucks, dude.
It sucks a lot, but that's the world we live in, my friend.
It is. Are you a big reader?
I'm a big listener of books, and I do read quite a bit now, but I'll read like 10 books at a time and just be reading across them.
Oh, yeah. What do you, what's one that you've listened to or read recently that stuck out?
Do you want a fiction book or do you want a nonfiction? Because I
Give me both.
Right now I'm reading The Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi's Five Rings, which is a cool book that I'm kind of halfway through, and it's this kind of cool over the top illustrated version of it.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's fun. I just finished Aragon, the new Aragon novel, a young adult like fantasy one, Mertale.
Oh.
So this is from like childhood, the Aragon series, but they just came out with this continuation novel, so I was doing that. And then right now I'm listening to the Witcher series. So The Witcher is a book series, and it's pretty good. So I would recommend the Witcher series for any people out there who are into fantasy.
I'm on it. You were going to say something. You like to listen, but I cut you off. You like to listen to fiction or nonfiction?
I like to listen to both, but I do a lot of fiction listening, fiction and fantasy. I tend to read nonfiction and then I'll listen to fiction, and because a lot of the times if I want, I use it as like a way to make sure my brain can focus on something else. So like I've got a very overactive brain, and I find that if I'm like doing a building project and I'm not listening to anything, then I'm really distracted and I'll forget tools and I'll do these other things, and I'll for some reason my eyes grabs too many things. But if I listen to a book while I do it, then it like soothes that part of my brain, and I can stay focused on a single task for hours while simultaneously listening to the book.
Yeah, I get that. My wife is the same exact way, and she would say that you are of high intelligence based on her research. I love
I love her reframe of what is considered a psychological disorder to high intelligence.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. Yep. Well, I've learned a lot because she is about to start her dissertation and be a psychologist, but she's a practicing therapist now. And it's crazy, just like a personality disorder. I didn't even know that word existed before I got married to a person with one, but you learn so much in it. She really does say, like, you can turn that negative stuff into superpowers if you harness it correctly. And I look at her and she's Law and Order's on the screen, some fucking stupid DUI, like cop shows on her phone, and she's writing like a 30-page paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, how my brain, there's no way. Like I need like no music or like focus music and that's it if I'm trying to type. But she's like, no, I need that to almost calm my brain down and get it to like a baseline to actually do something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of wild.
Do you know about the Enneagram?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what number you are?
Yeah, what am I? I'm like an 8 wing 2 or something like that. What's something like that.
You're an 8 is like the well, my wife's an 8, so here we go. You're like the alpha. You're the smartest person in the room. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever phrased it like that, but sure. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have strong opinions. You lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then a 2 part is I think like a kind of like a people pleaser, like you like to make people happy.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
sounds about right.
I can't remember which wings I am, but it's funny because I'm about as far from my wife as possible, like in terms of our beings. We're like flip flopped in the best of ways because and what I do like about the Enneagram is like it shows when you're expressing positively and when you're expressing negatively. So like when you're healthy and when you're not, and you can see those sides come out. So it's like a lot of people try to take those and be like, this is who I am. This is how I am. It's like, nope.
Yes.
There's a lot of sides to that. And there's a lot of like, are you a healthy one of those? Or are you an unhealthy one of those? And how it's manifesting. It's not just who you are. Like you need to become, you need to fit that mold in a healthier or less healthy way.
Yes.
Have you done the Colby score? That was a fun one too.
Is that the one where you get like a MRB or MR? What is the? No, maybe I don't know what the Colby score is.
Colby is like your MO. So yeah, your modus Colby KOLBE. It's a Colby A index is what it's called.
Okay.
And it's like it's kind of how you work. More than anything else, like how your brain functions versus like a personality test.
Oh, nice.
And it really helps you sort out the kind of work you should be doing, where you should be investing your time and what you should kind of outsource. Because what you'll realize is that there's people who they work really well in different ways. So if you give them the right type of tasks, they crush it. Whereas if you give them the wrong type of tasks, they won't. And so if you view all the things that you have to do through this kind of Colby score that you get, and you go, okay, I'm going to allot my time in different ways, then it makes you far more capable of achieving a lot more in a day. And I've found the Colby score to be a really good one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I will check that out for sure.
Yeah, they say it's your modus operandi, your MO.
Oh, I like that. No, what you were saying about the Enneagram too, that's my favorite part too. I forget the name of the book. Oh, The Road Back to You. That's an Enneagram book, and it teaches you like the healthy, unhealthy, and then it gives you 10 challenges of every kind of one to make you the best version of yourself. So I'm constantly going back there of just like, oh, I need to be seeking out community. I need to be seeking out conversations face to face, all of this stuff. And then being able to realize, that was not the healthiest version of me. I can't just say, oh, I'm a 5. Like, sorry about it. Like, this just doesn't work that way.
Oh, man. That I see is such a thing that happens to people these days. They'll find, something that validates a part of who they are, and they'll be like, well, that's just me. And you're like, okay, well.
What are we doing with that, though?
Yeah, like let's examine that one step closer, and then be like, and now what? Like,
Yes,
you,
and
yeah, you can't just claim that's just me and walk away. Silly people.
no. Okay, last question for you. If you were to write a book, what would it be?
Uh, I think right now I would love to write a book about the basic frameworks for um, things that I've learned in my life that are just like bigger picture things for my kids. So I'd write a book that would be like hey, when you become an adult, here's some basics. Here's the basics of food and how it works and affects the human body. Here's some basics of fitness and nutrition of like, hey, this is what intensity does. This is how training works. This is what you should be looking for in terms of those things. Basics of communication and relationships. Just and not saying that I have all the answers, but just some basics to give like a general framework. So if they're like, okay, well, how do I approach learning a new task, or how do I approach being in a relationship and making that communication work? Like, and I don't have the answers, but there are some basics that I think I could kind of lay a framework for that I think the boys would benefit from later in life.
Oh, dude, that'd be amazing, actually. I just do you know the name Matt Boudreau?
No.
He started some alternative learning type of schools. That's not. He's very much in line, I think, with what you and I have talked about before with parenting. And he calls those what you just said, meta skills. So if you're homeschooling your kids and raising up kids, like if you give them the framework of these meta skills, communicating with people, respect, taking care of your physical body, all the, you can just sprinkle in the academics on top of that is what he says of just like, math isn't a basic skill of being a human. Math is like an auxiliary thing, basically on top of those basics that you just said, which I think people get lost in the sauce. Again, going back to, I don't know, social media or whatever it is of just like, oh, my kid has to be like an A+ math student and we got to get them into all this. It's like, yeah, but how are you teaching your kid how to like talk and be out in the world and learn
Yeah.
what they want to learn? And that'd be an awesome book. I'll read it.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I love that framework that you just like. They're meta skills. I've been trying to figure out a name for what I would call these like larger, and because I don't know what they are. So I sat
Yeah.
to write, and I was like, what are the things that like when you turn 18, when you step out into the world, what are the things you actually need to know? What are the things that are going to make your
Yes.
life function better? Because they're not the end state. They're not the answers. You're not supposed to know the answers, but you're supposed to know the skills to navigate the world. Like what does it mean to go to figure out how to set up a campsite, or like
Yes.
how to have a hard conversation, or how to be confident in yourself? Like these things that are like what are the meta skills? Does he have a list of meta skills that he talks about? Because I'd love
I'll
to.
send you the I'll send you the link. When we were talking about it in our podcast, I'll send you the little clip. But honestly, what you said was basically a lot of them. I know communication was one. How to learn generally, and his whole idea was if you know how to learn generally, then as technology and the world evolves, you're not, AI is not taking anything from you because you already know how to learn, which means, oh, I need to learn how to put an input into AI to make the thing that I need instead of being caught in, oh, I only know how to regurgitate math or trigonometry. Like, I don't actually know how to learn something new.
Right.
I just know how to, memorize something.
Yeah. Oh, so his program's called Apogee Strong. Oh, he's with Tim Kennedy?
Yeah. Yeah. They started this is like his new round of schools, Apogee. And it seems really cool. But he actually started out in California, a set of schools similar called, I want to say Spark or something like that. And he was a professor at Stanford, left that to start those schools, and then recently like moved to actual fully functioning farm in North Carolina.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now.
Yeah.
Miranda's part of this. She's one of their mentors for Apogee Strong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so is JP Sears, Alex Hormozy, Patrick Bet David.
Oh, he actually recommended Jason Khalipa because I always ask for like at the end, like, can you recommend me some podcast guests? And he said Jason Khalipa.
Who?
Jason Khalipa, I guess is. Oh, Matt.
Matt did.
Yeah, he was like, Jason Khalipa's awesome. He comes on because they have a young men's group that get together and I think bring in all these mentors and like talk to these little dudes. Yeah.
Nice.
So there you go. Which leads me to, I'm gonna hit record. Okay, where can people find you?
People can just find me on social. I don't have. You can find me at Coach Pat Barber or the Fathers Guild. The Fathers Guild is my parenting and father pod, not podcast, but just information that I care about.
Perfect. Well, dude, thank you. And can I ask you some questions after this off recording?
For sure.
Okay, hold on.